Hey, what's up, Internet? In this video, I am going to be talking about the incoming Biden administration and what it might mean for the Chicago housing market, and why, even though I did vote for him, I am not 100% on board with backing every single one of his potential policies. So, and that's also why I'm wearing, the red, white, and blue. As of the recording of this video, he just was inaugurated less than 24 hours ago. And so I figured now would be about as good of a time as any to, share some opinions on that. I actually last night recorded like a 40-minute video on this. I'm going to scrap that and maybe piece it out and turn that into a blog post. So if you're looking for, I go into way more detail on things like the eviction moratorium and potential, foreclosure waves coming and things like that. But, in this, I'm just wanting to kind of get real with you guys and share some thoughts on that. So, if this is your first time meeting me, my name is Jake Lyons. I am a real estate agent here in the Chicago area with Berkshire Hathaway, and and I'm the owner of the ChicagoHomeSource.com, co-owner of ChicagoLuxuryApartments.com. The Jake Lyons Realtor YouTube channel, where my goal is to make sure that my viewers are well informed or have the tools to make the most well informed, data driven decisions possible. And yeah, so with that being said, before I get too into it, I do want to throw out a couple just disclaimers / just thoughts. I request your grace and your civility. I know anytime that politics is the issue at hand, that can be a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. I know there's obviously super divisive time right now and all that. So, I just ask for your respect. And also, I'm just a guy on the internet sharing his opinions right now. I don't take anything I'm saying as like legal advice or tax advice or anything like that. I'm a real estate agent. I am not a tax professional or an attorney or a political commentator or, anything like that. So with all that said, I'm going to dig in now on just what my opinions are and where I think things might be going, just as much as possible as it pertains to the Chicago housing market and the housing market in general. So, contrary to how I just said I talked about this stuff for 40 minutes. I'm actually not a very politically motivated person. In fact, I actively avoid it. My well-being and sense of self and identity does not rise and fall with the musings and goings on of just random people in Washington. That's just not, identity politics is not where I prefer to be, but obviously it is, important to keep knowledgeable on these things. So, they do affect our lives, and, it's good to stay up on it. So I am pretty much like the definition of an independent. I've been eligible to vote in 4 elections now. I voted in 3 of them, and I voted for 3 different political parties. Okay. The Democrats got my vote in this last one more for social reasons than me, aligning with like their fiscal policy or anything like that, as we'll get into a little bit. So I'm going to kind of arrange this in terms of immediate to more long term. Otherwise I'll look like that Charlie Day meme where he's just like looks like a crazy person trying to explain stuff with all kinds of like scraps on the wall and all that kind of stuff. So in the immediate term, the things that, this is all speculation. This is all, anybody who's been around the block knows that just because, what a politician says they're going to do and what they actually end up doing are 2 different things. Not everything is even up to Biden. Obviously, things have to go through Congress, and they're going to hem and haw about all this stuff. But, the things that are coming up in the immediate term, things like pushing for more vaccinations, more expanded unemployment benefits for lasting a longer period of time, the eviction moratoriums, the foreclosure moratoriums, things like that. These are probably tough pills to swallow for a lot of people, and I'm sure everybody has different opinions on them. But I think that they're kind of no brainers, and I think they're eventually going to get bipartisan support. And I think it's just what has to happen to bring us out of this whole COVID nightmare and get the economy on track again. So that's something that I support. I don't think that necessarily just opening the economy up and saying, screw it to whatever's going on with COVID when, the death toll is up to World War II levels and over 100 9/11s and all that kind of stuff. I think that would be a reckless thing to do. So I do think that that they're going about that the correct way, and that that will have good benefits to everyone eventually somehow. Obviously all the debt that they're taking on to do that is less desirable to do it that way, but with how super low / really non-existent the interest rates are, especially on the federal level, which was where the government will be borrowing from. It's not great, but it could be worse. And if they are able to stimulate the economy that way, then hopefully we'll get this pipe dream of getting back to a balanced budget eventually. Maybe somewhat attainable. So there's that. I do think that, I'm going to start getting into more specific housing policy stuff. I'm going to start with the stuff that I like first. So probably the thing that I'm most excited about is Biden wants to have a $15,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. And that tax credit would be accessible immediately, and you would be able to use that for down payment assistance. And that is huge. That's a big deal. We haven't seen kind of, stimulus type, well, not stimulus, but we haven't seen programs like that since, before the housing crash. And, so as long as they're not being too reckless about it and, not setting up for another crash, which I don't think there will be, that could be a huge boon for everyone, and open the floodgates for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to qualify or be able to afford home ownership and building wealth that way. I think that should be a really good thing for a lot of people. He also wants to open up FHA lending for he wants some of the bigger banks who have shied away from FHA lending or have had tighter standards on their FHA lending to more openly embrace that, which is good. That also gets more people involved and more, FHA, as I talked about in another video, and my the first step in buying a home is arranging your financing. So I talked about it in that video a little bit. That FHA program, loans that are FHA backed, open up the lending standards a little bit so people who who aren't able to qualify for a conventional loan can get into an FHA loan. Also has really great benefits for multi-unit investing and things of that nature. So more of that happening, I think, is nothing but a good thing. What else? There is, the potential forgiveness of student loan debt, I think is, that's another super divisive subject, but could be good. It would decrease people's debt to income ratios because that's less debt that they have to service now. The flip side of that is that it might be a tax hit because forgiven debt is usually counted as earned income on your taxes. So I don't. Who knows if this even happens at all? Who knows what that actually is going to look like? But so that's something to consider, the pluses and minuses of that being passed. Okay, so those are some potentially good stimulating things that are happening on the demand side. On the supply side, he wants to do $100 billion program for affordable housing. Who knows what that looks like? Who knows where those, where exactly those dollars are going to go? I don't have any intel on what that could look like as far as the Chicago area is concerned, but why not? Let's take it for a spin and see what happens there. More affordable housing is obviously a huge, a big deal right now. There's not enough of it, and so that could be good. Another thing that could be good on the supply side is more lenient immigration policies and tariffs. So, right now the cost of building is very high because the cost of labor is higher and the cost of materials are higher because of all these tariffs. Obviously the one that gets probably the most recognition is the tariffs on China, and everybody knows that a lot of our supplies and materials come from China. Biden has said so far that he doesn't really want to touch the China tariffs because, relations between America and China are a little icy right now. But, there are a lot of other tariffs that Trump put in that he's going to try to reverse on to kind of reestablish those relationships and be on better terms with. Up to you what you think of that. But, things like lumber, like the tariff on lumber coming in from Canada could be, that's like a obvious immediate one that comes to mind. So, things like that can reduce the cost of materials, which obviously will decrease the cost of building. I think I said decrease last. Did I say increase or decrease? I meant decrease of whatever, but yeah. And then as far as, the labor pool, immigration, I don't think I'm saying anything that is too out of pocket when, a lot of times people that are not from America are often the ones that are building our houses, building the buildings, building America. So, more lenient, more forgiving immigration policies, people not necessarily, people not afraid to leave their house and go work and earn income for the fear of, being found out and getting deported, or even just having a better, a more easier access to gaining citizenship and becoming an actual tax-paying citizen and all that kind of stuff should, decrease the burden on finding the labor in the market force to build up the supply and the inventory that is super low right now. And yeah, so he also wants to keep the eviction moratoriums and foreclosure moratoriums. Right now he's wanting to do it till March, but he is going to ask Congress to extend it through September. So that, that's a pretty big deal in terms of, well, a lot of things, kicking the can down the road in terms of those. I mean, the important thing to remember is that just because there's a eviction moratorium and a foreclosure moratorium doesn't mean that those bills aren't due. Everybody in those is still everybody in those contracts is still responsible for what they owe. So in a lot of ways, you could almost say that the longer those exist, the more backed up debt that these people in these situations are accumulating, and almost the less likely that they're going to be able to repay those once those moratoriums are over. So, I mean, especially like in the foreclosure moratoriums, I think it's reasonable to expect that there's going to be some surges in foreclosures in all areas of real estate, whenever the moratorium ends, shortly thereafter, So if you're somebody sitting on large cash position, maybe you've ridden the wave of Tesla stock and you want to get out and get into some slightly more conservative but still profitable investments, maybe that's something that you'll want to consider when that time comes. And then as far as the eviction moratorium, I love the multi-unit space and work with a lot of investor clients. And, I'm telling people now that I think there's going to be a surge of supply coming onto the market in the multi-unit space. It's because a lot of landlords are going to start having some problems that they want to get off their hands. And if you are somebody who can come in and solve their problem for them, then there's going to be some opportunities for you in the marketplace for that. So getting into now some of the stuff that I'm not so thrilled about, it's really all around tax policy. And there's a lot of the tax policy initiatives here seem kind of geared towards stopping real estate investors specifically. And I guess I just wanted to say a little bit now that I want to fight as much as I can this notion that's out there that, all real estate investors are these like fat cat millionaires who just like stomp on little people all day and sit in their yachts and drink their martinis or whatever, while the little guy is out there struggling to pay rent and stuff. I mean, I'm sure that's some of it. I'm sure there's some of it out there, and I'm sure that the former President Trump had coming from a real estate background, and the whole he didn't pay taxes and all this stuff. I guess it's kind of a weird time for the reputation of real estate investors right now, but that's just not the case. The vast majority of real estate investors are just regular, everyday people like you and I who have worked really hard to save up money and to get into investment properties to better their lives and to gain financial freedom and, have this passive income to help them achieve the American dream of, again, having this financial freedom and not being beholden to a job that they hate or government, programs or, anything like that. So any policy that's passed that disincentivizes that type of behavior, I am just fundamentally against. And, I understand that there's different ways to think about this stuff. If the various government programs do end up working out extraordinarily well, and a lot of people benefit from that, the net result maybe it is better. I don't know, but this is just me being real with you guys, sharing my opinion, and that's just what I think. So getting into some of the things that concern me a little bit. The first one is the potential elimination of the 1031 exchange, the section 1031 in the tax code. If you guys don't know what that is, this pertains to investment properties and to other types of investment assets. And what it means is when you sell, I'm just going to talk real estate because that's how I know what a 1031 is. And again, I'm not a tax professional, so don't take what I'm saying as complete, gospel or anything, but talk to your accountant if anything I'm saying doesn't make sense, or if, I'm sure I might get something wrong, whatever. But how I understand it, 1031 is, it allows you to sell your property, and these are investment properties, so these don't pertain to like your primary residence or anything like that. So if this is your investment income generating property, right, you can sell that property. And if you've made, so say you buy an investment property for $200,000. Later, a few years down the road, you sell it for $500,000. Normally, you would have to pay a long-term capital gains tax on the $300,000 profit that you made in this transaction. What a 1031 does is, as long as you buy it within a certain time frame, I don't off the top of my head remember what that time frame is. I apologize for that. I think it changes all the time. But anyway, as long as you buy another property, another like property, it has to be a similar property of equal or greater value. So say you take that $300,000, and now you can take that as your down payment and buy $1 million investment property. The long-term capital gains tax that you would have had to pay on that first property, you now get to defer that tax payment until you sell the property that you're buying next. So that $1 million property, if you go and sell that later down the road, that's when the capital gains tax will hit you, not when you sell the first property. And there's no limit to how many times you can do this. So you can keep stepping up and up and up. But the important thing to remember is that, I guess I get that it might look a little weird. It might look like a tax loophole. It might look like you're getting away with something, but you're not. You're kicking the can down the road, but that bill is going to be due. And if anything, the tax bill is going to be higher because you're able to buy properties that are are more valuable, are more expensive, and incur even more taxes later. Okay, so this is a great thing. This is a fantastic tool. There's no reason. I mean, a lot of politicians have tried to do away with this, but the thing has lasted for, I think I think this thing's been a part of the tax code for almost 100 years. So I mean, it survived. I think it's going to have a hard time. I think anybody trying to get rid of it is going to have a hard time doing so um, because it's just common sense. This thing works. It makes sense, and it's good. It's good for the economy. It stimulates. It allows more people to get in. At the lower levels that the investor wants to move away from, and now somebody else can come and take that and do their thing with it. And it's good for renters. It's good for everybody. And um, but Biden does want to eliminate the 1031. It's not really getting talked about a whole lot, but things that I've read have suggested that, and I haven't even seen, a lot of these other tax things I'm going to talk about are limited to people that are making more than $400,000 a year or more than $1 million a year, depending on what site you're reading. Basically, I don't know, but I haven't even seen that caveat for the 1031. So I'm hoping that's just a bunch of hot air, and doesn't actually come to fruition, because that, I think, would hurt the economy significantly, especially the housing market. The other thing that they want to do is that capital gains tax. They want this would just apply, I believe, to the highest earners, either 400,000 or $1 million. Again, depends on what you're reading. I don't know. I tried to find just like a definitive answer to that, and it's going to change anyway. By the time if it passes, it's going to be some kind of compromise, and who knows what it actually ends up looking like. But the theory is, for the highest income earners, any capital gains taxes will be taxed at their highest income tax rate, which is significantly higher, almost twice as high as what their capital gains tax rate would be. So this compounding on the 1031 exchange elimination. So not only are you not able to defer your capital gains tax rate or your capital gains tax anymore, now you're paying almost twice as much in that tax. So it's just going to make people, if that's the case, people aren't going to sell. It's going to hurt the already very low inventory that we see on the market right now. And, if anything, they're just going to do more cash out refis and that kind of thing, and just hold on to their property and get their money out that way. So, and even outside of real estate, I think I get that all these programs cost a lot of money, and the taxes have to come from somewhere, or the revenue has to come from somewhere to make up for that. I just, again, think that anything that disincentivizes investment in the economy, and even talking into the stock market and capitalization for companies, that now they are not going to be able to hire people, and and that kind of thing. I think if you want to stimulate the economy, that's a weird way to go about it. Okay. Not to say that it can't work. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not any of that kind of stuff. This is, again, just me spitballing here, but, and I'm open, I reserve the right to change my opinion about any of this stuff. Okay. I take pride in being somebody who can change their mind when presented with a better idea. And I've been known to do so on a wide variety of subjects. Anybody who has known me for a long time, I believe, can attest to that. So this is just where I'm at now at this moment in time, January 21st, 2021. Okay, fair. We're good on that. And then the corporate tax rate, they also want to raise, I believe, from 21% to 28%. So you see that and you're like, 7%. What's a big deal? It's actually a 33% increase. Okay, so I mean that is a big deal. That's again, more hiring, more R&D, more all kinds of things like that cannot happen anymore. Because it's going towards paying Uncle Sam. And maybe it's fair, maybe it's needed, I don't know. I think in the scenario where they are able to succeed in doing all of these things at the same time. I mean, maybe you can do one or the other or a couple of them, but not all of them. But I think if all of these things succeed, I just don't know that I don't know how much that makes sense. Okay, so that's just where I'm coming from on that. And yeah, so as far I'm cautiously optimistic about all this stuff. I think overall, I think it'll even out. Especially on a lot of the stuff that I kind of have issues with, or sort of these like high level things that aren't affecting the majority of people, and I understand that, or at least not directly affecting them. It's affecting it. I think I would argue that it's affecting them in ways that they maybe don't quite feel or understand, but it is affecting them indirectly in ways that I don't know that it benefits them at the end of the day, but I don't know. Okay, so that's it for this video. I wanted it to be a 10-minute video, and somehow I still ended up talking for 25 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. If this brought you any value, if you wanna chat about anything, if you again, I ask for your respect and civility in the comments anywhere or anything like that. But if you have something of value to throw in there, please do. Depending on where you're watching this, subscribe, like it, comment. You know what to do. I'm sure this isn't the first video you've ever watched. So, yep, that's all I have for now. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Goodbye.